Welcome to your Conscious Choices for Wellness podcast, hosted by B. Crutelli. This is a space for everyone to learn anything and everything related to healthy healing, including naturopathic medicine, music, dance, yoga, meditation, eco-fashion, mothering, and organic lifestyle choices. Topics for expanding universal consciousness. Come join me weekly as we delve in and begin this journey, sharing valuable content gathered over the past 3 decades, helping to support a healthier and more sustainable future for all. Welcome to my podcast today, a very special podcast, Father's Day 2025. As I decided to not only protest seeing my own father on this day, which I've probably seen every day for 50 years of my life. I would say 99% of the Father's Days I've joined my dad and met him and, had lunch and maybe seen a movie, and, it's just kind of been a tradition. But this year I felt different. I wasn't sure, and then I was sure of seeing him and made a plan. Not a, real concrete plan, but a plan to meet up. And then days ago, I decided I just could not. And this was when the LA protests began about a week ago, and things started escalating in my state of California, which my dad also lives in. But I just, could not bear to be around my dad when he is an extreme MAGA Trump supporter. And I decided I didn't want to be triggered by him and get in an argument, maybe even in public, to just, be okay with not meeting up with him on a Father's Day, which is really just another day that American people, maybe it's, a commercialized holiday that I don't know the history, but I know a lot of the American holidays have been started by the commercial industry trying to make money. And, it is nice to have a special day to honor someone, but we all have birthdays, right? And I think birthdays are the bomb of celebratory days that can't be made by anybody else but yourself and your parents that brought you into this world. So, anyways, I decided my dad does not have a phone, so I sent my stepmom, his wife, a text several days ago stating that I'm sorry, but tell my dad that I cannot meet him on Father's Day this year because of the state of the world. And he actually thinks that the state of our country is the best that it's ever been. He literally told me like 3 weeks ago on the phone that we are in great hands, that he feels really good. And I was just asking him how he was doing that day. And he was like, Bobby, I am doing pretty good, except for his physical ailments he's dealing with. He felt very blessed and grateful, and that the state of our country was doing awesome. And I just was baffled, I just could not say anything to that because he doesn't hear me. I try to tell him things. I send him information to read from experts and from real news sources, which he's obviously not getting real news sources and hasn't been for years. And I think that's part of this problem. And I thought maybe it was getting through to him a little bit, but then he said that. And I just know that I don't think he's really going to change his mind. I think some people, in their older years, I mean, my stepmom's not even 70 yet, but, certain generations are just stuck. And then if they get brainwashed and then they honestly get dumbnified by the food that they're eating as well, it blocks, I think, their blood-brain barrier from, content going through properly. I really feel like this is part of it. So I wrote my Substack, my blog, on titling it, I've Lost My Dad, Devastating Division of U.S. Families. So what is this devastating division all about? Well, you may think that this post is about families being torn apart in the times we are in due to the viral lunatic attempting to demolish our country here in the USA, our country as we knew it. And if we don't sound the alarm, this overreach won't stop in LA. It will spread. This is a quote from Jane Fonda last week on Trump deploying the National Guard onto the streets of Los Angeles. Not only the National Guard, but the Marines. Hundreds of Marine troops on the streets of Los Angeles. Yes, mainly, I think only in the downtown region. But that affects all of LA, and that affects really all of us in this entire country, as Los Angeles is one of the biggest cities in our country, and it stands for a lot of what our country is. And so this goes beyond migrant workers with families here, though, but also it is impacting deeply what's happening within many families that just disagree with the huge dismantling of our human values. Values that root deeply on many levels, from women's rights to environmental issues to humanitarian assistance to genocide to tax dollars that we all have to pay for, to so much more. It's not even real almost, but it is. My dad has always been there for me in so many ways, and I've forgiven him for the ways that he wasn't there for me as a child. He was the cool dad, I wrote in quotes, back in the day. I could tell him anything, and he never got mad. He gave great advice. He always stayed calm. He taught me how to ride a bike. He went camping with me a lot when I was a child, and he even had a Westie, which is a Volkswagen Westphalia camper van, for many, many years. We drove in that van without seatbelts because there were no laws on seatbelts back in the day. And just one more memory and tidbit about my dad, and maybe many of you think this is gross and disgusting and horrible, but he would drive with me when I was a child. We didn't have to wear seatbelts, which that's not a big deal, right? Many of us growing up in the 70s and 80s did not. And he would tell me as we were driving along, going on our camping trips, Bobby, can you go, get me a beer out of the back in the cooler? So I would, walk back, and get in the cooler and get him a beer and bring it up to the front seat, and he'd plop the beer in the cup holder and, honestly be drinking and driving. It doesn't mean he was drunk. I never knew my dad as a drunk, even though he drank beer and still does on occasion. But he would never drink, at least that I could tell that he was drunk. He was just, having a beer, a couple times, whatever, a day. It wasn't like he was drinking like a 6-pack or a 12-pack every day. That's the way I saw it. Okay. So also, he took me rafting in wild rivers, even saving my life once when I almost drowned. Taught me how to play poker, to appreciate music. He definitely started my appreciation for music at a very, very young age. I mean, he was a DJ in the 1980s and so much more. Then one day, many years ago, he changed his political views to be more conservative, which soon led to be very conservative right, leading to, yes, eventually becoming a MAGA supporter. Well, this was difficult to watch, as many can relate to being in families that have different political views. Now in 2025, it's not like the years in the past, though. This is the year of extreme oppositional views from far-right extremists tearing down our democracy that has been built over the past 230 plus years, longer than any human life has ever lived. So that's why no human that is here right now on this planet has ever seen anything like this before. And this is our history as we know it. We know in our hearts that this is wrongful behavior without a doubt. Those that don't know seem to be brainwashed, or are they really in support of such evilness? Very interesting to observe, yet disgustingly devastating at the same time. Nationwide, the No Kings protests are happening today, and the earlier hands-off rallies drew millions in opposition to Trump's authoritarianism and dictator actions. Could this be the beginning of a civil war after 160 years? Whatever this chaos is leading to, we all have to be ready for. I keep saying to my loved ones, this is not the time to have your head in the sand. Preparation and community support will go a long ways, as well as staying strong in body, mind, and spirit. Embracing what is, the process and cycles of life is key, right? So there's a process of life, and we need to enjoy that process as much as possible and be participatory in that process, right? We can't just hide under the covers. We all have work to do here. And there's also a cycle of life at play. If you step back and you look at the cycle of life over time, this is just a cycle, right? And it's a cycle that's different, right, than any other that we've seen. And that's okay. I mean, we've all evolved, and there is evolution happening underneath our feet. So who knows what's coming? The surprises of tomorrow await us all. Now back to my dad, who I feel I've lost to this far-right extremist mentality. I don't know if it was mainstream media, the algorithms, I'm going to say meta algorithms, because he supports Facebook. I also want to say he's a Facebook supporter because that's his social media that he uses. Secret racism, possibly, although he swears he's not a racist. Generational ego or the peer pressure. But he is on that side of the bar, and the division shines bright. Bright as the blatant flag flying from his red Cadillac with bumper sticker intact. And bumper sticker, not just an American flag, but Trump. And house with giant flag waving in his collection of his US flag paraphernalia that is all over his office from home, to an actual photo, the current royal family in his home. And that was, the last time I went to his house, which I will not go there anymore. But when I was at his home was before this last election. What I'm speaking of has to do with a while ago. And I'm not even joking here. It is absurd to me, as a matter of fact. So I've been able to contain myself mostly since the major shift began after the first Trump term, although there have been a few times I had to distance myself, send him opposing and factual news via email, or hang up the phone in a debate. But up until most recently, when I realized I can't get myself to hang out with my own dad on Father's Day this year, what the fuck? Maybe I just need some deeper internal work myself to not let his extremist values and skewed beliefs shine on me when we are present together. It feels like such a fine line, though. I've heard I'm not alone, and it's not a surprise. I'm certain there are numerous families being torn apart during these times over political opposition more than ever before in history. Even if my dad didn't say a word about politics or wear a Trump shirt at our usual Sunday D-Day lunch, I would still feel uncomfortable hanging around with someone, yes, even my own father, who is supporting a racist, fascist dictator that, in my opinion, is tearing apart our country. And the country that I brought 4 more human beings into, my children, which I feel responsible for in a way, even if they are now adults. They didn't ask for this, and who did? What's next? I tell them the good news is that good people are rising up until change is made, and change is inevitable, right? Change is inevitable, and it is happening at a very quick rate. And I know that it can be scary for a lot. I even get a little bit like, I need to breathe. I need to do my pranayama breath. I need to stay grounded. I need to stay strong because I know that the change that is happening is real and it's like we've never seen before. And so it's shocking. And what is really awesome about it is seeing so many of you out there in the streets and people coming together in community more. I think we were pulled apart a lot, especially the pandemic, of course, drew us apart. And honestly, maybe that was part of the plan. But what needs to happen now and what's happening this year, and I think it just is really beginning, is people realizing that we need to come back together. We need to be in commune and supporting one another. And this is in so many ways and so many levels. And that is what my piece and my purpose is to spread awareness, to spread not just awareness about what's happening. I'm not trying to be political here, but I kind of had to be on today's podcast because what's happening with my own dad and it being Dad's Day, I wanted to speak about it because I do have strong political views. I am an activist at heart, and I have been since a very young age. I honestly would have been an activist, probably traveling the world and doing some kind of literature or reporter work. If I didn't have my children, I would definitely be writing and speaking about topics that are happening in the world that support us being healthier as people. And I mean healthier in a holistic way, of course, right? And I actually just posted something on TikTok a few days ago that I don't even know how many people have seen it. I don't have a ton of, followers. I'm, getting up there a little bit, but I hate algorithms, and I feel like the content I make is quality enough, and I really enjoy creating content. It is an expression, and I think for many it is, and I will continue to do so. But I saw a post where Rogan had Elon on his podcast, and I don't know how long ago it was, but it came up on my feed, and they were speaking on this book that has been viral on TikTok for some time that I've seen. That's just another holistic healthcare book, as far as I'm concerned, that, has a remedy for everything. And I've had books like that in my repertoire for 2 decades now, and went to school, learning from these books 25 years ago. And so I'm like, okay, now you guys are, two of the most, famous people out there are speaking about, oh my God, there's this book and it has all these remedies in it, and they've been hiding it from us, and I'm talking about the doctors, the mainstream medical association, the AMA, the drug companies are trying to hide this information. And they're like, talking about this on the podcast. And I'm talking about Rogan's podcast. And I'm like laughing, going, yeah, guys, this is why the school that I went to 25, 30 years ago got shut down by the AMA, because they were giving this information out in the books that I was reading from, that I was learning from, that I got my degree from, that I'm very proud of. And here is the richest man in the world being like, yeah, they've been hiding this information, da da da. And I'm like, oh my effing G. So I reposted it, and I said something about it, and it was just, yeah, not surprising, but literally so fucking ironic. And my dad, oh, my dad, I did call him this morning, and he didn't answer, and he's may just be out to breakfast, and I hope he's not too hurt from me not meeting up with him today, because honestly, I need to take care of myself. And I'm up here in Nevada City recording this at an Airbnb. I just visited with my daughter, and have a lot of my stuff in storage still. And my car is filled with things that I'm bringing back to the Bay today, as well as doing my organic gardening job that I have. I will segue off of this recording right now and get it edited by tonight so I can release it on this special day for fathers. I don't know if there'll be any fathers listening to it, but whoever listens to it, I'm sure you will learn something, and I hope that you will keep listening every week. I will be supporting natural healing, natural wellness, and this is coming from a Gen X mother who raised her kids holistically, who is here to support wellness for the rest of my life in a holistic, natural way. Thank you all for listening. Have a beautiful day. Until next week, peace out. Stay strong.
From we enter inside, I come through and lift up the vibe. That's just what we bring, we get like. Gonna get this party started alright, all night. Got the rhythm on deck, I don't need to tell you what's next. Just jump to the rhythm and show me two-step. Jump to the rhythm and show me two-step. Got my cup full, I'm fine.
Thank you all so very much for listening today. I genuinely hope that you learned something, and I invite you to join me each week so you never miss a conscious wellness beat. This podcast holds a special place in my heart dedicated to my evolution here. my passionate mission to spread more consciousness for the much needed wellness on Earth. Come join me as a guest as well. Let's collaborate, making change for future generations.